ballots in the special voting exercise. Generally, it was smooth in many parts of the country, apart from the pockets of incidents here and there in relation to food being shared, people taking photos of their ballots, among others. What is your general assessment of yesterday's exercise?
Now, good morning to you again, and good morning to our listeners. I think yesterday, generally speaking, the election went well, except a few hiccups here and there. But it's to be expected that you will not get everything right. But at least from where I sit, I believe that the EC was able to put its house in order. Voters also exercised their franchise without difficulty. It also tells you the advocacy that has gone into this exercise, that there's a need to maintain peace at all times. For me, that's the spirit behind this democratic enterprise. And I dug my heart for all the stakeholders, including voters who made it possible. I want to also say that we should not end here. We should maintain the same sanity, the same peaceful atmosphere, and then, of course, be guided by the rules of the game, and then get into the 7th December and exhibit the same or even perfect the process to make everybody proud. This democracy is the only one we have. Without that, we cannot survive as a society. So all hands must be on deck to make it work.
Now, let's talk about some of the incidents that occurred on the day of the exercise. For instance, people taking photos of their ballots, and for many, they found it surprising, especially looking at the group of people who were voting yesterday. It was made up of security officers, journalists, among others. To have people of this caliber take photos of their ballots, what kind of message does it send?
It was very, very wrong. Wrong. The law regulating the conduct of everybody relative to election does not allow this. So that is totally wrong. And I am happy that yesterday they took judicial notice of that, and then they are in appropriate forum answering questions for their actions. That is how it should go. Democracy is anchored on rule of law. So anybody who wants to go beyond the law, I'm afraid, will bring you to book. I was so disappointed that these are not ordinary people, but officers of the law. And here I'm talking about a particular officer who went on his own to undertake this type of exercise. It's unfortunate. It's unfortunate. And that should tell us that we all must take a cue from it, that the state will not countenance that going into the 7th December proper. That anybody who will undertake this, I urge the police to have the courage and then give that person what he or she deserves relative to what the law says. Yes, we have to make sure. And I like the vigilance of the society. After all, eternal vigilance is the price of liberty. And yesterday, it was demonstrated to the highest level. I love that. We should, whenever we see something, we should say something. But we make sure that at the back of our minds, we are want to do this exercise, making sure that it is peaceful, making sure that it is in accord with law, and making sure that we will have our country intact during and after elections.
Still on the developments from the election yesterday, Ayawaso West, we're going to be specific. There was a little bit of a commotion because the member of parliament for the area was seen in a widely circulated video distributing food to people in the queue, and it became a huge point of disagreement at the polling station in question. First of all, what did you make of that?
That was a wrong move by a member of parliament who was supposed to know better. I mean, imagine the ordinary man had done that. The police would have gone for him or her. So why did he do that? And What's the meaning of that? I can't get it. Imagine Dumelo also took the position that he was also going to share food. The place would have turned into chaos. But that is what we call an equal playing field. That why is the honorable member of parliament working as a free person? He must be arrested. Because if you were an ordinary man who did that, he would have been arrested. Right now, if something happened in another camp, another person does that, would the security people got the courage to arrest the person? And these are the signals that we don't want. In election, equal playing field must be established so that we all do the needful. We all do what is right. Because once we allow people, because of their position, because of their status in society, to go against the rules of the game, I'm afraid you undermine the credibility and the sanctity of the elections. And you and I do not want to be in that regard. It is just unfortunate. It is just unfortunate that we have that.
And in subsequent interviews, she did say that she did not do that, even though there were videos all over the place showing her in the video as people that were with her were sharing the food. She says she didn't do anything of that nature. Well, at the moment, the special prosecutor is investigating the case in question. As we understand it, they said his officers were on ground to speak to reporters and people who are around, among others. Good move?
It's a good one. But as to whether it will be carried to its logical conclusion is another thing. In Ghana, what I have seen over the years is that things that are warriors, especially things that affect elections, we talk about that. As soon as the election is peaceful, we end it. Matter close. And for me, that's where the worry is. Because the next election, the same problem will come and stay in our faces, and we'll have no solution. So from one election to another, we always introduce certain variables that undermine the quality and the credibility of elections. And that, for me, going forward, we must nip it in the bud. It's not a good sign.
And still on the elections and the OSP, before the exercise would even go deeper into the day, it issued a statement. The Office of the Special Prosecutor issued a statement warning the various candidates in the presidential and parliamentary elections that vote buying is against the law, and that people who were found culpable will be, picked up among others. Does it surprise you that despite that warning, some of these things were still happening?
Oh, but if you see what happened, I mean, if indeed that is what happened about the honorable member of parliament, then it tells you that just because he's in government, he has the courage to do that. If that what all that we are saying is true, that it did happen, then that's where the problem is. Because if you want to talk about equality before the law, I'm not a lawyer. My understanding is that there are two components: due process and what? When we talk about rule of law, it has two components: due process and equality before the law. That whatever we do must be in consonance with the law. That's the due process. Then equality before the law. Nobody is above the law. So in a society where you have some people who, by dint of their position, by their status, they are above the law, then my village, people will tell you that did we go or did we come? What are we talking about here? Democracy requires for equal treatment for all. And in election, we are saying that equal playing field. It is not for fun. That is a critical component in ensuring free and fair elections. We are not talking about ordinary election as pertains in what some of Eastern European countries and Asian countries and the rest. We are talking about a particular election called free and fair. And what is this type of election? Election devoid of irregularities. Election devoid of what violence, rigging, and what anything that serves as an aberration. It is not part of what free and fair election.
Now, still in relation to the elections, ideally it was supposed to take place in 16 regions, but because a defaced ballot paper, according to the Electoral Commission, leaked from one of the printing houses, it had to recall the ballot papers for those regions, and then that of the Western region, because that's printing house also printed the Western region. So they will be voting on December 7. Will it in any way have an impact on those who will turn up to vote on the day? But before you answer that, what is your what do you make of the EC's decision to recall these ballot papers and reprint them?
I think I salute the EC for that quick response, because it's part of the enhancement process towards what foolproof election, so that anything that will raise eyebrow, you need to what expunge that from the system. So for EC to be able to identify this and quickly taking that decision, I commend them. I want them to do more. We also, as a society, I am happy that with the kind of vigilance now we are ensuring in our society. These are very, very important things. You cannot build any democracy where people stand aloof and watch things as they unfold wrongly. We can't build any meaningful electoral system where the playing field is not equal. We can't build any solid electoral system where rule of law is thrown to the dogs. We have to be careful about all this if you want to maintain this democracy, which you and I believe that we want to maintain at all times.
Now, the fact that in the eastern and western regions they had their special voting postponed, does it in any way, do you think in any way that it could impact turnout? Because we've heard some people say that they had really planned to vote yesterday. Some of them will have to leave their respective regions to go to other regions, especially when it comes to deployment, among others. Will it have any impact on turnout for those for the 5th of December?
Obviously, it will have a little impact, but not that much, because remember, these are specialized voting, and most people who are involved are security people. Their superiors will allow them to go back because it's not their fault. So we are going to experience that high number. I have no doubts in my mind in terms of what voter turnout. So there shouldn't be any cause for alarm at all.
Okay.
They go and exercise their franchise as required by what law.
And the special voting in itself, are there any lessons in there that the various stakeholders must learn in order to improve upon them come December 7, Saturday?
Yeah, there are lessons. One, that whatever that security officer did in taking photo of himself is wrong, and that we are not going to allow that as we move toward December 7th. And it is unfortunate. And you could see that some of these things, when we don't address them, they come back to bite us hard. MPs in Parliament started this. You recall when they were voting for the speaker,
yes.
And then they were taking photos. So what do you do? What happened to those who took pictures in Parliament? What happened to those who breached the rule in Parliament? I mean, nobody. So once people get to know that some people are above the law, you create this type of uneasiness for our society. But we are not going to allow that. It will not happen on our watch. Come December 7th, all of us are going to be vigilant. We are going to call people out by law when they cross the line, and we'll make sure that the rules of the game are adhered to. We expect every person in this country to support the security people, to support all the election stakeholders, so that this exercise becomes a success. I am particularly interested in this and worried sometimes, because if you look at countries around us, democracy is retrogressing there. In other words, we are saying a reversals of democratic experiences there, and we don't want that in this country. So it is incumbent upon all of us to stand firm and let democracy work. I admit that democracy has its own problems, all right, but there's no system which is perfect. But for me, democracy which is even torn apart and is incarnate, I'm afraid I stand for that type of democracy, because it is the best than any military regime or imposed regime, for that matter, authoritarianism. No, I'll go with democracy. So all of us must come along and then make it work. We have spent a lot of resources to build democracy to this level. So this is not the time for us to destroy it. And mind you, all that we are doing, we must be mindful of the fact that we want to exercise our franchise within the framework of the law, and then ensure that there is peace prior, during, and after elections.
The last time I engaged you, we spoke briefly about the decision of the Electoral Commission to restrict access to coalition centers. I asked what will be the consequence if the Commission did not rescind that decision. You said you were very confident that the EC would rescind that decision. You did say that you believe that they are reasonable and they would rescind that decision. Well, that day, not long after, it said it has suspended it for further engagement. Yesterday, it issued a statement saying that it had reversed the decision. I'm sure your response will not be any different, would it?
Oh, as I told you, because I'm a watcher of this democratic space. The EC cannot do anything that do not resonate with us. Look, there is nothing like the law that is the will of the expression of the people. What we want it to be is that expression you find in law. That's it. We want a system that everybody who is required by law to participate will have opportunity to participate. So any other thing that will cause that person not to be able to exercise that right is an aberration and it's a misnomer. We are not going to welcome that. And that is who are head of an institution. We are just a symbol of that institution. We own the institution. We direct the affairs of the institution. We support, we finance the institution. So you will listen to us, not because you want to do anything else. You will listen because at the end of the day, for every public office, you are answerable for your actions and inactions. And I know that yes, so far so good, and they would not want to tarnish their image. So I have no doubt in my mind that that decision, which was a wrong one, will be reversed. And thank God it has been reversed. Going forward, I will urge the EC not to rush into taking decisions that will not help anybody. They've done so far so good in terms of their preparation and efforts. And I believe that they will be able to carry this process to its logical conclusion.
Did it surprise you at all when you first heard that decision about the restriction to the restriction of access to the coalition center? Did it surprise you when you first heard that?
Yeah, I was surprised in the sense that if you read the Commonwealth Observer Group report, the various election monitoring reports, which EC is sees with, all right, go to their library. They have tons of literature on that, which when I was a master's student, I was going to that library to study. So I saw all these things. So looking at all these things and you come back, you know that when anything goes wrong, it will be captured in observer reports and it will stand in the name of the state. You will not want to cross any line that you are not supposed to cross. So I was so surprised. But look, human institution, when you are dealing with it, you should not give anything to chance. So I was also hopeful that they would do the needful. But I was very firm in my mind, and that given what has happened in this country, given how far we have come, and given the kind of performance EC is performing, in spite of all the difficulties that they are going through, for me, the EC is doing well. And so if you are doing well, you don't want to undermine your own success. So it was on that point that I believe that, given all the factors that I have said, in addition to this last one, I believe strongly that they will have to make a U-turn. And thank God they made a U-turn. But going forward, I expect them not to repeat this mistake, or maybe cause another mistake so that it will raise eyebrow. Anything of that nature, let us discount that.
Now, in relation to the elections, which is some 4 days away, the editor-in-chief of the Dispatch newspaper and pollster Benison, he's put out the result of his opinion poll, and it is putting the flag bearer of the NPP and Vice President Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia at 51.2%, and then that of the former President and flag bearer of the NDC, John Mahama, at 47.1%. And it says that the remaining others will be, their percentage will amount to 1.7%. Have you had a chance to see this poll yet?
I've not seen it, but you see, there's something we have to learn in this country. I'm not a statistician, but at least I am not ignorant of the basics that I need to be able to organize or to understand research. Some of these things, when they throw them out, we want journalists bring them up, pose questions to them as to their sample size, the margin of error, and the rest of them. These are the ingredients we need. Once we have them, right, we'll be able to make sense of that. I've not seen his report, but I hope that they reflect these things so that at the end of the day, whatever he churns out, yes, even if it doesn't come through, once it follows a scientific process, we are home and dry. These polls and all that, there are some that are not credible. There are some that are. I'm not saying that is falls into the category which is not credible. I'm not saying that, but there are certain things, the basics that we need to know. Yes, because sometimes when I look at some of them, their methodology and all that, you realize that they got it all wrong. Because if you look at science, scientific truths are universal and verifiable. So whatever you churn out, if you give that methodology to me, and I walk through that path, at the end of the day, all things being equal, I should get the same answer. It is this spirit that I work with, that the scientific inquiring mind that guide this process. Because look, the polls are very critical components of free and fair elections. That they guide us and they prepare us to a certain logical end. Because sometimes when we get them wrong, and we have been able to carry a lot of people along, and it turns out to be false, it creates a whole lot of problems for us. And remember, anything that will raise eyebrow in elections, it's a cause for worry. I'm not saying that his report is one, but I have seen a number of reports, and when you give it to the statistics people, when they are looking at it, they'll tell you that there are a whole lot of problems with that. I hope and pray that all these things will find expression in such a report that we are seeing, so that when we are carrying people along, we know that, yes, that is the case. But I expect also, as a human institution, I know that sometimes people get them wrong. Even if you get it wrong and the methodology and the processes are okay, the statisticians will tell you are right. There's one thing the public, sometimes we are not aware of. The statisticians will tell you that you can predict election and it will come true. But if statistically it is wrong ab initio, and that the best that your report can be is a lotto report, lotto forecast report, not a statistical document. So we should be worried, we should be careful about these things and all that. I've not read his report,
Okay.
but I know that he's been an experienced person in that industry. All these ingredients will find expression in there, and that when we read, we'll be able to glean something that will be able to guide our, choices as we move along.
And do polls have any impact in terms of the outcome of a polls, or how the various political parties go about their campaign with regard to where they channel their strengths and otherwise? What role do polls play in that area, especially with 4 days to the election? What will an outcome like this coming from from Benefson do to the camp of the NPP and the NDC?
Polls are critical, very, very critical, factors in elections, in the sense that, one, they are able to guide us as to the focus and direction of the election. They are able to give us a sense of voter choices and how they want to express them. They are able to bring to the fore issues that, voters put premium on, as against issues that they discount. And all these things help political parties to shape their campaigns and their messages and the rest of them. So polls are critical, and they are able, when you look at genuine polls, they are able to carry people along. And that at the end of the day, when the results also turn out to be the same, you realize that it is easy for people to accept defeat and abide by the rules of the game when they lose election. Even when the polls raise their hopes so high, and then something to the contrary happens, then it creates doubt and all that, and it can create a whole lot of problem within the system. And that's why we urge people that, as much as polls are very good, they are necessary in electoral analysis. We need to be able to make sure they are scientific, because if they turn out to be sorry, any other thing, then they undermine the very exercise that we are doing, and which is not good enough. So scientific polls are very, very, very critical. They help us in a lot of ways, but they have their own problems. Problems in the sense that when they are not done well, they also poison the minds of people towards the outcome of the election, and that can also spell doom to the political system. So we want them that much as we know that it's good, we want people to be very careful when they are undertaking them and let them be scientific. Sometimes people don't have the expertise, but because of certain factors, they jump into that field and then create all manner of polls, which I call them as bogus polls, and they do not bring anything to the political system.
Now it's 4 days to the election day itself. The two leading candidates, they've intensified their campaigns, and this last week Friday as well as this Sunday, we saw that the NDC's candidate and former President John Dramani Mahama, he went to Prophet Adumche's church, the branch in the Greater Accra region. And then on Sunday, we did have Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia go to the Kumasi version, the one in the Ashanti region. First of all, is it a numbers game, or is just a case of people seeking the face of God in their quest to lead the country?
So it's not about worship or religion. It's not about that. It's about numbers. That why did anywhere one or two have gathered, right? Political parties can go there and also win souls. There are winnable souls all over. And so once they go there, there's nothing wrong with that. But sometimes you ask yourself, the process they go through, you realize that does it reflect their religion or not? It tells you that they are not in there for any religious purposes, but they are there to get numbers. Remember, we are operating an electoral system which is based on first past the post. It's a first past the post system, that whoever crosses the finish line with one vote, you are home and dry. You have won. You are moved from a candidate to become an MP, and then from a candidate to become a president. So every single vote is so critical. So wherever you go, and you will be able to get the numbers. Why not? There's nothing wrong. They go in there. Sometimes the comic aspect of it is that they go there and they you see them like, excuse me, small boys who are subjected to all manner of programs in there. But of course, in politics, there's always a strategy. I've said it, and I'll repeat here that in elections, if you want to win, you need 3 items. RSM, what are shorten them as RSM? Resources, both human and material. Strategy that works and resonates with the people. And then the M represents 2 things: your manifesto and your messages. And so the strategy is one. So wherever they go, it doesn't matter. Because if you study podcasts, I will tell you that when you are looking for power, it doesn't really matter how you get power. We say who gets what, when, and how. How you get power, nobody is interested in that. At the end of the day, the ends justify the means. You have power, and you are able to induce obedience. That is the spirit.
And it was at Prophet Adumche's church that the Vice President, Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia, did say that he will sign the anti-gay bill, what has been christened as the anti-gay bill. He will sign it as soon as if he gets the chance to govern. It will be the very first thing he would do. He will sign it as quickly as possible. He will sign it with alacrity. Now, let's compare that to the government he's serving in at the moment as vice president. What kind of signal does it send? He says he will sign it with alacrity, whereas the government he's serving in at the moment seems to be dragging its feet when it comes to that bill in question.
You can pardon him for that, because given his position, he can only offer advice to the president. And Mr. President, I'll be pleased if you could sign this bill into law. The president can say yes or no. So that he has not done much. But as to whether he has been even able to offer that advice, what we expect is that offer the advice and let it be rejected. Then we know that you have done your work. But if he has not been able to do that, that's where there's a problem. The problem lies. But you and I will not be able to know whether he did offer any advice. So that one, is immaterial. Let's leave that one. We want to see if he get power and see whether what he can walk the talk, and that's another thing. Because when people are looking for power, their language is different. When they get power, their language is different, and it goes with their actions as well. They can have power and you realize that what they promise, they pay less. More often than not, you realize that politicians have failed us simply because we have not been very vigilant and active in the political system to be able to hold them answerable to their pledges and all that. So they come and promise heaven and earth only to come and deliver the earth to us. We want them to honor their promises. And if we want so, we must ensure that there's vigilance. After all, eternal vigilance is the price of liberty.
Now, you mentioned that, for instance, Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia perhaps could offer advice to the president to have the bill signed into law. But then again, you said we probably will not be privy to it because that advice will not necessarily be made public. If he has done, should there be some form of communication to indicate that he has indeed, counseled the president in private to sign the bill into law?
Well, you'll be so naive to do that. So that one, let's give him the benefit of the doubt. Let us not go there because one, we cannot verify that. Two, if he has not said it, given the time we find ourselves and the exercise that is going on, the president will not come out and disown him. So that one, whatever we are looking forward to, we will not have it. But we want to see that if he gets power, would he be able to master the courage and sign the bill into law, or he would do otherwise? That is where the catch is.
Now, in this dying embers of the game, there's a trend in relation to a promise that was made by the NDC flag bearer, which is become known as Nkukon Kitinkiti, but I think it's in relation to poultry farming, where chicks will be supplied to people who are ready to do such works to go ahead and rear them, and then it will become a business they own. But you would notice that the other side, the NPP, has capitalized on this and poking fun at it. Does it have any political implications for the NDC?
Those who are laughing against that policy, it's surprising to me. Look, poultry, keeping of birds, that is in poultry making, and then even animal rearing. It's one of the things that support this economy. Is it not true? Who doesn't eat? If not fish, what about meat and other products of animals? What are we talking about? So if there is a leader who says that I am going to encourage this, we must support that. Look, there are policies that people come with flashy policies, but they are not able to carry them to their logical conclusion. I'll give you one example. This government has done so well in the area of agriculture, helping people to have ponds at their backyards and whatnot. But as the government, the government is spending a lot of resources in providing seed for farmers, in providing fingerlings and juveniles for farmers. But when it gets to the sale of this fish, when they are ready, government is not there to sell. I speak on authority because I have a number of ponds in my backyard, and I've been contacting the ministry and commending them of the good work. But they fail to get to their logical conclusion when it matters most. When you need people to buy this fish, you have nobody. If you have such a policy and you are not able to carry it to illogical conclusion, it comes back to square one. It doesn't help anybody. Meanwhile, you are throwing state money away. But meanwhile, this is a serious venture, very good, that can reduce unemployment and then provide us genuine food. Now that water bodies are being present with cyanide and all that, the fish ponds are very safe alternatives that people can rely to. But here you are, is government available to supply this? I have followed the same thing for poultry farms. When government some time ago, decide to support poultry and all that. When it got to the time that government was supposed to help them to market these things, government was not there. And then we ran into shortage of this, and politicians went out of this country, bought chicken parts, and today that is the industry here, and our farmers are suffering. So what John Muhammad is saying is not a joke. It's an important one, except that if you are not close to that industry, you will not know. Poultry and animal rearing is the foundation of this country. Whether we like it or not, that is it. So you can, make mockery of it. But I tell you, those who are in the industry, those who are close to it, I tell you, they will buy that product.
It's just 4 days to the election now. Can anything significantly shift where the tide will fall or where the tide will swing come December 7, 4 days?
Oh, until the final whistle, you cannot leave any stone unturned. Everybody who is in the political space, I'm talking about the political parties and candidates, they will never sleep. They are working 24/7. All right. The 24-hour economy, which some of them also make nonsense about, that's what carried them through anyway. So they are in there working 24/7, making sure that they cross their T's, dot their I's, and all that. There's nothing wrong with that, provided that they will do it within the framework of the law. As a political scientist, I know that the day after, what we call it in political science, the day before election, the night before election, things happen. And that for me, that is where I always have the fear. That is where all money exchange hands. That's where they induce people. That is where they abuse the system just to win power. It's my hope and prayer that the electorates will be what they will look sharp. Let me borrow the expression of young people. They will look sharp and make sure that anybody who comes to what induce them, who come to what bribe them in the name of what serving them, obviously is not worth considering, because you cannot come and bribe me and tell me that I want to serve you, but I want to bribe you in order to serve you. Then there's a motive, which is ulterior, and those are the people that the public must look out for and then punish them by voting against them. They are evils of the open society.
Doc, thank you so much for speaking to us. We're grateful for your time. Always a pleasure talking to you.
Thank you.
You had us speak to Dr. Asa Asante. He is the Director of the Center for European Studies, as well as a senior political science lecturer at the University of Ghana Political Science Department. This is the Morning Star here on Star 103.5 FM.